Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Duval Dive. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, a student of the game.
I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And you're listening to this thing on the Believe Podcast Network and Road Warrior. Travis D. Holmes. Obviously, Travis, you're my personal champion. We know that. But hitting the road, doing the thing, getting to mini camps. If you haven't seen the many messages he's had for you out on the Duval Dive YouTube channel, get a hold of your life. Check them out. There's a lot of good stuff going on there, too. And over and above the special interviews you had with coaches, we'll get into that and some of that material and as well. So it's all the things. And then listen, you know, some people that got to enjoy that, Travis, our newest members on the Duval Dive YouTube channel. Shouts to Thrillmonger, Jingles810, and they call me Swo. It's Swo. There's only one O. But anyways, regardless of how bad I got it right or not, welcome in, and we much appreciate your patronage here on the dive for sure. 100%. And we mentioned the one-on-one time you had with some of the coaching staff during the Minicamp and OTAs, Travis, our good buddy Radius, also regular on the Storm Surge podcast, by the way. You got surprisingly full and honest responses throughout these discussions, refreshingly not cagey with the details. And let's be clear, if you can get an interview in a scenario where it's not all coach speak, that means you're getting real information, and props to Travis for getting those real answers as such. And like I said, Duval Divers, Duval Devout alike, get a hold of your life. Check those things out on the Duval Dive YouTube channel there too. Robert, thanks for the props on the new intro. I did it myself. So I appreciate that. Robert making a statement we'll get into later that we'll build upon. Deepest roster yet, says Robert. Very fascinating stuff. 542 Travis in the video with the online O-line coach, Emmanuel Pregnon, asking the why. Fair enough. And then
E-Man, yes, E-Man is Pregnon. That's how Coach Sean calls him. I call him E-Man. I'm like, oh, E-Man. All right, cool. That's what you want to go with. I go with it.
And then, you know, I'm just as excited as you, Preston, about the new members. Let's go. There we go. So with that in mind, it's time to get things off the ground. I don't want to call this, there's not really been ugly, air quotes, during these OTAs and camps. I haven't heard Travis panic or get the this team makes me drink shirt out yet. Yeah. But there is definitely some good and some bad. Yeah, I did say yeah, brother. I got you. So with all the above being said, oh wait, one more last bit of business. I forgot to send him to Big Cat Country. Let me get a better bell than that. Forgot to send him to Big Cat Country. Ross Mastic making the main thing, keeping the best in the building. Hey, listen, this is bigger than just Cam Little going blonde. Okay, this is extending the life of. I said it had to come up at some point, Travis.
That was Cisco. Yes, Lord. Nah, man. Ross got paid. Ross got an extension, and honestly, I didn't. It was one of those real big under the radar things that I lost it. I didn't even realize that he was in a contract year until he got the extension. And then I'm like, dang, he is in the contract year. That's got to be one of the more, underreported contract year guys, seeing as he's the lone all-pro, first team all-pro from the Jaguars from last season, and 3 Pro Bowls straight, 3 all-pros under his belt. Hey, man, well-deserved. It's reportedly $3.8 million in new money, though you don't know what the total terms of the contract are yet. But nevertheless, obviously well-deserved, Ross.
Ross will snap it long. It's because you said Cam would look like Cisco. I'm sorry, my bad. Anyways, so yeah, we got all the news and the things out of the way. And Duval Divers, I have to tell you, in general, I've seen a lot of positivity from Travis and his reports and what I've seen. Granted, I am only an honorary member of the Duval Devout, but let's get into the brass tacks. The top thing you have listed here in the good on the list tonight, I don't know that this one's a surprise. We'll say it. The deep passing game. Yes, everybody seems happy about it. By the way, other things people seem happy about, Travis. Trevor didn't actually cut his hair, just to be clear.
Fair. No, fair. Yeah, the fact that was moving magic was always a good situation. But the vertical passing game, and we've talked about it. If you've been paying any attention to the Jaguars offseason, you've been hearing about the fact that they've had this major emphasis on it. This has got to be basically everyone's main takeaway. And with you having a conversation around it being the vertical passing game, that's the positive. You're obviously talking about Brian Thomas Jr. in that conversation. And that's whether you were in the fantasy football community, that's whether or not you're in the Jacksonville Jaguars fan base, or you're just a guy who kind of watches the Jaguars ever so often. You probably want that young man to do well, because if he does well, this Jacksonville Jaguars team is probably going to do well. So it's been a great situation. I mean, you've seen the highlights. You saw the highlight in this intro. Brian Thomas Jr. going over guys. Brian Thomas Jr. leaning into defensive backs, making space when none. This Brian Thomas Jr. going over guys with the Christian Broswell catch. All those things that I can't say we're used to seeing, because we should have been used to seeing after the 2024 season.
We thought we would see maybe last year.
Didn't see as much last year, right? So you've seen that with or without pads is still a positive outcome after not seeing much of it in the 2025 offseason. So shout out to the coaching staff for recognizing that. Shout out to Trevor Lawrence for recognizing that also, which we talked to him about following day 7 of OTAs. And shout out to all those guys that kind of getting it right. We'll see if they continue getting it right once pads come out.
And staying in the passing game, something I find interesting here in your notes that you're mentioning, I'm not seeing Bocater being mentioned here, but I am seeing the other tight end being drafted, Tanner Koziel, being listed among your factors here.
If you're talking about the vertical passing game, then you have to talk about Tanner Koziel, because it's like you're seeing all these Jacksonville Jaguars receivers being used in a different way than we didn't see them like used last year. And Trevor directly mentioned that again after day 7 OTAs, like he was talking about the fact that most of their deep ball, most of their deep ball attempts were not necessarily vertical and down the sideline like those isolation routes, but they were more the deep crossers, the deep across the middle of the field, maybe post routes, things of that nature. And now we're seeing true explosive down the sideline, my guy is better than yours type routes. And that's not just with Trevor Lawrence to BTJ, but that's also Trevor Lawrence to Tanner Koziel, who's had, I believe it was 4 days straight where he had a big time catch, like multiple of them were touchdowns over Ray Lane. And I'm just like, ooh, boy. So when Grant Udinski mentioned, that on the Hunt video that Nate Broekager, quote unquote, changes the offense, you can apply that statement to Tanner Koziel too, because again, he's the guy who has that wingspan. And this is where he's going to kind of show out in OTAs, because he's the more of that receiving tight end in the mold of Evan Ingram, but not the same as Evan Ingram, because he does a lot more down the field, not necessarily drags and crossers like that.
Also more blocking action, I think, than we would associate with one Evan Ingram. I think that's worth mentioning as well.
I'm questionable on that one, but we'll see.
Okay, you'll let us know whether that's accurate. Fair enough. The Preston jumps in. I'll believe it when I see it, but dang, I hope I see it. And hey, listen, hey, don't we all, folks? Divers, we're not going to be these cats that overreact to everything. We're just telling you what we see so far, right? Things with a grain of salt. We're going to say the thing because apparently people in the past have accused us of being homers. What are we talking about? They apparently forgot that Travis has 2 shirts that says this team makes me drink, whatever. But all of the above to say, Coing mentioning defensively to force deep throws because of completions rate. Didn't like hearing him say it out loud. Here's the thing. Yeah, I don't know about all that. I Preston, if you want to build on that, we would dig it for sure. But here's the thing, and it was said earlier. I flashed the comment up before about improving that in vertical passing game. Thank you, Robert Lamberson. He makes them defend every blade of grass, which then spreads things out and things out up front for the run, which would then make more effective the personnel you've drafted to punch people a little harder in the mouth. It's all a domino effect and complementary. We're still back to the question of, did you do enough in the interior line? Obviously, as we go through all those things, what about the running game? Exactly what I'm saying here, Jay, is a vertical passing game lightens the box. That's the hope here, right?
That's it. I mean, you're going to hopefully lighten the box, and we can get more into that, especially once we get later in the offseason. But it's going to come up as far as some of our questionable items. These folks ain't got pads on. They're not going to get those answers right now.
Right.
But what we do have, at least some reasonable, we should feel reasonably fine with, I guess, the uptick with the passing game, what we've seen from the defensive secondary, like the basic things that we should be seeing at this time of year. I think most folks will probably say that they're happy with where it's landing right now. So overall, I'm fine with it. I'm happy with it. But also there are still some things that I'm still like, we'll see. Like I'm cool with it, but we'll see.
But before we see more of those, man, listen, let's take it to your part of the house here too. And by the way, if and when we do a short for this, make sure you tag our guy Emery Hunt, because you and him both, we're all about Jabbar Muhammad, and he's making plays in these OTAs, my man. What do you think of this, Travis? I got to hear what you've been seeing.
PBUs or an INT on literally every single day of OTA and minicamp, which is a crazy thing to say about anybody, but especially something crazy to say about an undrafted free agent who spent your whole past season on the practice squad. And I always think of guys like Darius Williams from the Rams, just because those are those generally undersized guys who you don't expect to end up being your starter, but end up doing the right things and just somehow find a way to make it work. I'm not going to go crazy and say Jabbar Muhammad all day started for the Jacksonville Jaguars. No, I'm not that. But I am going to say, hey man, he's made enough noise to absolutely give himself that leg up when you're talking that Christian Broswell maybe spot, that backup depth cornerback, that outside cornerback spot where the Jacksonville Jaguars might have some questionable depth, while Travis Hunter, while Jordan Lewis are not even on the grass right now. I think that's actually reasonable. And I spoke to defensive passing game coordinator Matthew Rouge, it's Rouge, but I forget how to actually say his last name if I say it right. Like Matthew Arujo, and the secondary coach Anthony Perkins, and we have the videos on the Duval Dive YouTube about Muhammad, and we all thought he was a solid free agent, undrafted free agent pickup last year, but then I think folks just kind of forgot about him after the season kicked off because he spent the whole season on the practice squad. But they keep just saying this dude is consistent. He does the right things every day, and then he just takes it to the field, and that's kind of what you'd expect to see from a veteran. But he's a veteran who's also we haven't seen, so it's kind of like a mixture of all the best kind of qualities. So hopefully he'll keep going.
It almost makes it sound like he's like Dewey minus the hype. I like the hype of speeches. You know what I'm saying? Because you're using the same words, consistent and available and all these other things.
Well, see, the thing with Dewey is Dewey was consistently and not getting beat. I frequently came on this podcast and said, one thing we know about Dewey, he ain't gonna get beat. He ain't gonna let the dudes run by him until he started letting dudes run by him. Right. And then it was a problem because that was his main driving force was the fact that that dude's gonna be in the right spot. He's not gonna bust the coverage, blah, 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 blah.
And then what had happened was
as soon as he started doing that, his entire benefit in being in this backfield is no longer there. Jabbar Muhammad's making plays on the ball. That's a little different. And I'm gonna be clear in saying that. Now, when they get in pads, when they can hold, when they can start hitting, when they're doing all those things, if he continues doing that, then I'm going to be I'm very happily surprised. No different than I was happily surprised when we saw what was going to happen with Montaric Brown a few years back. It happened in a big way last year, but you saw the flashes even before that, because if you knew if you get this man back in his own cornerback scheme, like Mike Caldwell's scheme, he's going to have a good season. And he did.
PJ. Yeah, no, clearly. Yeah, and PJ definitely down on Dewey there. I had to throw that. See, we'll go back to Preston in a minute here with that. I'll follow up on that, Preston. I want to say this. There's a thing about Broswell is he can play multiple spots in the secondary and play special teams. Can Jabbar at least play outside and be a good gunner? Preseason games will tell. Yeah, the fact that he's making enough noise to be a factor, I think, Robert, is the takeaway here, right? This is UDFA who stayed on for the practice squad, and now he's making his way up. One chance front on that, So
making noise at a time when you're going to be given a runway is how Cole Van Lannon got his job. Making noise when there's a runway available is how Antonio Johnson splashed last year. Making noise when there's a runway available. Again, these things don't normally happen in the NFL, where a left tackle loses their starting job in the season, which I talked to Sean about, Coach Sean Sarrett of the Jaguars offensive line coach. That's not a normal thing. And the fact that it happened is it's impressive. One, on the player, but also two, on the coach to have the balls. And I'm just gonna call it. That takes some cojones to take a starting left tackle and say, nah, this dude beat you out. And I don't need to see an entire offseason of competition to kind of come to that conclusion, because Cole Van Lannon was injured the offseason. So was Montaric Brown. But those opportunities is how these guys get those spots. Well, right now, Jabbar Muhammad has an opportunity with Travis Hunter not on the grass, with Jordan Lewis not on the grass, and he's taking advantage of that. And I'm not going to diminish that just because they're only in OTAs, if that makes sense.
No, it makes a ton of sense, man. I love everything you said there. I might even write this down to make a short out of it later. But no, I mean, long of the short, man, everything you said is spot on, right? Changing a left tackle is, in my opinion, the only thing more critical than changing the starting quarterback, right? And to your point, did it mid-season, the huevos this dude must have had to pull that off. Or it may just have been a matter of that was the only option because Walker Little just got beat that hard and made the case. Let's be honest. That Trey Hendrickson play even burns deep into the emotions of our good friend Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar. The guy, the ASMR man himself, the calmest guy I know that covers the Jags, was even flummoxed when we brought that play up while he was here. Okay. So I can only imagine what it did to an O-line coach. Okay.
That is fair, man. Now, these are some good conversations. And I just thought it was interesting conversations from guys who you don't normally hear from in this Jacksonville Jaguars offense and defense, all the assistant coaches, again, the running back, like the coach. Again, I only put 5 to maybe 10 minutes max on the majority of those videos out on the socials. And some of these conversations were 20 minutes long, 17 minutes long, etc. Like the conversation with Chad Morton, the Jaguars running back coach, was probably my favorite interview. And I'm mad that half of it wasn't recorded, because it was some real fun conversation talking about how passionate he is to make sure that this Jacksonville Jaguars running game gets more yards in the 2026 season than Travis Etienne gets. He said it directly, and I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, he's like, no. He's like, that's my guy, but he needs to know we're gonna kick his ass next year. Like, he needs to know we're gonna have more yards than him next year.
Let's go.
And I was like, dang, I like this. So one of those. It was some good conversations, man. It really was.
And one thing I'm going to bring up here that I think is interesting, we mentioned, I put it up there, Jabbar was awesome in college. He's a baller. Yes, I'm trying to find the white. I took my eyes off of it, and now I lost it because I'm a goofball. But yeah, and then we got. Did we comment there? Let's go here, because I see people asking about Caleb Ransaw. And the comment I saw, we'll go back to this comment here too, Preston, because that'll come up later. But Caleb Ransaw, what was it? The comment was, I like corners who could cover. And when we eventually get Caleb Ransaw to replace Eric Murray, but you have him listed here as having a good camp so far. So that may not happen right away.
I think it's real fun when folks, because I think I said it on the last pod, I believe the last pod we had, that I'm like, folks love the brand new. And I understand why they love the brand new. So folks love the fact that we are seeing Jalen Husky out there making plays. And they do.
Brown, by the way, making the comment.
Yeah. And then they love the fact that you have Caleb Ransaw and you're finally seeing him on the field after they drafted him, mid rounds last year. But I'm sitting there like, nobody's really talking about the old, quote unquote, veteran. And I say old, missing like 30 years old. Yeah, like old veteran.
He is football old. He's definitely safety old.
Sure. Yeah. And the entire safety room throughout this camp has been super active getting their hands on the ball throughout all of it. But Eric Murray, he's quietly been having a phenomenal camp. And I don't think most people in the media have mentioned it once. But again, you guys know, if you talk to anybody in the media, they'll tell you 50% of the time, Travis is over there with the DBs. Like, that's just what I'm looking at, especially in OTAs, because I'm not wasting my time looking at the defensive lineman and the offensive lineman for what? For who? They ain't got no pads on.
I'm going to try my best to not be offended, but also
you know what I'm saying.
You're right. Yeah.
Yes, we would do that when they get pads. Then I was put more of a focus on that. But for the moment, like, it's about them DBs and the wide receivers. Like, and that is just where I am. Like, folks are forgetting that Eric Murray had dealt with that neck injury throughout the 2025 season before returning to the field later. And normally I don't over exaggerate PBUs from DBs at this time of year, but I need folks to remember that in OTAs, that's where the offense is at a really they're at a major advantage right now. They're not wearing pads. So that's why you have every season where you have guys just pop up on offense like De'Ami Brown, like Joshua Cephas, like Eli Pankel. The DBs can't hold, so they can't really be physical at the line of scrimmage. They can't really get in guys' pocket like that. But we all know the games ain't played on underwear. Like eventually you got to get them pads on. And I said the same thing on 1010XL with Hacker on Tuesday, where he was on Baloo's show. Like OTAs are basically your first interview. You'll never win a job at organized training activities, but you can absolutely lose one. Like we've seen all these camp all-stars, when the pads come on, they just kind of disappear. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like we've seen a lot of these guys who are quiet early on, but then they pop off the screen as soon as pads come on because things got a little bit more physical. That's where I'm waiting for, like when the pads to invite that other aspect of the game, like we're punching the ball out, stripping the ball out, physical plays on contested catch kind of scenarios, true tackling opportunities, and blitzing DBs and linebackers while being blocked. Like that's the next stage of this. But I think so far, Eric Murray, Jabbar Muhammad, both of those guys in that secondary have absolutely had great camps, and I won't let nobody tell me otherwise.
And here's what I think is the real thing to add here, right? We mentioned Eric Murray's age and father time is an a-hole. We've said that, or at least I've said that on this show plenty of times in the past. The fact that he's still keeping up in the speed drills and making that difference before the pads come out as a senior player matters, right? That part, I would argue, comparatively is the younger man's game. If you're still out there at 30, tearing it up before the pads come on, I'm looking forward to that old man strain getting in there, making a difference, right? So, I think that's the whole thing. Yeah, and we know Eric Murray can hit, Jay baby. I'm not worried about.
Yeah, he's good in the alley. Pause. But yes, you know what I mean.
I wasn't ready. Pause. There you go. No, but yeah, and what was it? The other comment here. Preston jumps in. All these versatile DBs are great to roll coverages, help linebackers with hook zone. Yep. Rolling was popular in 25 around the league. Start too high and roll. Yeah, and I think it's a good opportunity to show a lot of deception, and that's something that a coach that blitzes the hell out of the quarterback, like Camp does, is
the most versatile safety of that bunch is Antonio Johnson, and I think it's crazy that it's interesting how the coaching staff has talked about him, and it's all the small stuff that you just pick up on it. Just like they'll mention his versatility unprompted. It'll just come out of a different conversation. They got nothing to do with nothing, and all of a sudden we'll be talking about the Minnesota Vikings. Antonio Johnson comes up in the conversation. Yeah, I can move this guy there. I can put him in the middle. He can blitz. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, dang, that was interesting. It may not mean anything, but it's just one of those things you write down. Just like, all right, y'all keep mentioning that dude unprompted in all these interesting situations. Y'all got some definite serious plans for that young man.
I can't front on that. That's a good point, for sure. And for all the exciting things that we mentioned here, it is time to get to the part of the conversation that might give the fans the lemon booty. Some notes of things that were struggles throughout here as well. And the linebacker core, listen, I'm on record having my questions. I didn't expect this young man necessarily to come up as a premier concern, but Jack Kiser, just let me know what you've seen so far there, Travis.
Well, it's not even about the fact that what I've seen so far. It's bigger than that. It's more about the fact that what I haven't seen so far. Jack Kiser. Like, this is the interesting part about this. Like, I was talking to D-Rock with ESPN on Monday on the side after we were watching, we were watching Branson Combs make a really good play deflecting the pass. And I'm like, and I said to him, I'm like, dude, and I don't remember how the conversation got there, but we got there. And I'm like, I don't think that dude's made a notable play all season at a time that I've seen nearly all the linebackers kind of have solid off seasons. And I literally cannot name you one play that I recognized him playing. And as much as we've kind of crowned Ventrell Miller as the presumptive starter, Kiser was a 2025 mid-round draft pick with a year under his belt now. Like, I think he probably should be a little bit more noticeable at this time of year in year two.
I'll even add this, because I know his role is, as we talked about at the time of his drafting and many times here on this show, it is alleged that he is the quote-unquote heir apparent for one Foye Oluokun. Here's the thing, my guy. To your point, if you were supposed to succeed, Foye, I'd have seen something from you by now, just in general, with a rep here or there. Oh, hey, listen, he looks the part. And that not happening, I find concerning, right? Father Time's an MFer. He's going to do something eventually to limit Foye, whether it's this season, next season, the season after. Hey, hopefully it's not for another 10 seasons. We love the dude here on The Dive, but Father Time is, in fact, an a-hole, and they need something substantial to fill time. Eric Murray has Ransaw on the wings. That isn't clear at the linebacker core, and I share that concern with you, man.
It's not clear at all, and that's the thing. Again, I can tell you plays I've seen from Ventrell. I can tell you plays I've seen. Well, I've seen from Branson Combs, and again, I didn't see much from Branson Combs last season, but I'm seeing it now, and you can at least say, all right, I see, I got you. I see where you're going with it. We'll see what happens when pads get on. And to be fair to Jack Kiser, maybe the coverage is just not the biggest part of his game, and we'll see more when the pads get on. Like, he could just be a thumper, and that's okay. And that's not to be unfair to him, but it's to say coverage exists. Coverage is an important aspect of all of this. And in this portion of the offseason, I simply have not seen it. Fortunately, the offseason's not done, and we got time to kind of figure out where it's going to go.
Yeah, exactly. Just for everything you said, we're not getting too high. We're not getting too low. We're just kind of wondering, hey, listen, you need to be more than rolls to a jelly sandwich or to a deli sandwich, Jack. What are we doing here? That's right. I made the Kiser dad joke. My bad.
Wow.
Anyway, going down the list here, another concern, and I don't think this is a surprise.
It shouldn't be.
Nick Mullins.
It's not even just Nick Mullins.
I was going to say the backup quarterback play in general. Yeah.
Backup quarterback play. Like, let me surprise. Breaking news, y'all. Dun, 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 dun. Nick Mullins is going to be the backup quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2026. Wait. Shouldn't be a stop.
Wait, what? Hold on.
Lord.
Sorry, I had to play the
like, sans any trades or off-season cuts by another team. Let's just knock that out now, man. At a time where the passing game is at an obvious advantage, Joey Aguilar and Carter Bradley, they just haven't done enough to be a reasonable challenge to Nick Mullins. But to be very clear, Nick Mullins himself has also been very much up and down. Which that's just not how you prefer to describe your backup quarterback. Like, the name of that role is supposed to be stable. That's the word of the day, right? And
if Trevor hurts his ankle, I think I have the right picture.
No,
there we go.
No. That's I mean, yeah, in some ways, yeah. That's it. That's nervousness, bro. Because he's been really up and down, and he's been inconsistent on his deep ball attempts so far. Frankly, all of the depth quarterbacks have kind of been religiously late in their short to intermediate progressions. I've talked about that on at least 2 different post-practice recaps so far. They just aren't hitting on all cylinders right now. And for Nick Mullins, who was specifically brought in because he knows the offense, because he's a stabilizing force to kind of help Trevor with everything, but also if Trevor goes down, be that guy. Well, don't feel very much like he's that guy as far as being stable right now. And again, I'm just fingers crossed, praying and hoping that no one gets hurt, because we've seen a lot of the reports out of camp from all the beat writers saying, hey, these defensive back play has been pretty awesome right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a caveat to that. And I'm always going to be the one to be real with y'all and tell y'all when there's I'm a DB guy through and through. And I love that these guys keep playing through the whistle, but I also have to acknowledge when the primary reason for a pass breakup is, hey, man, that dude was NFL wide open, but the quarterback was late seeing him, or the ball was underthrown, and that's what resulted in the pass breakup. It can be a good defensive play, but also being a bad offensive play at the same time. There's nuance to this. If you ever seen the football tape, you can be like, nah, yeah, it was still a great play by him getting his head around, but also the quarterback was super late and he should have thrown a touchdown. You can say both things. So I'm just seeing way more growth and development in the secondary for all those depth guys, and I am seeing growth and development from that backup quarterback spot that should be challenging them. And that's a major problem for me right now, because Trevor has missed. Well, how many games we talking?
I was just about to pull it up.
Yeah. We have the knowledge that last season was the first time since 2022 that Trevor Lawrence played in every game. And I feel like the backup quarterback role should be more important than it seems so far.
And before somebody comes in and looks at 2023 and says, Travis, he played 16. No, Humpy Bumpies. That dude willed himself onto the field for at least 3 of those games. He played hurt way too long that year. One of them, I'm pretty sure, was the Saints game, which they should have lost if that final touchdown wasn't dropped by the Saints tight end on Thursday night. Let's be clear about that. Okay.
That was Eric Brown, wasn't it? Oh, yeah.
all the above to say that 16 is misleading. I put it at 13 if we're even being honest about it.
Yeah, he had like 3 injuries that year. I remember. So that even the 16 is, and so in my head, I'm like, I'm happy they were injury free, or for the most part, injury free with Trevor last year. But also seeing the overall history, you're playing Russian roulette at that point. And because of that, I was actually kind of shocked that they didn't bring a backup quarterback in. And I was just like, you know what, maybe it'll be better. And now looking at this offseason, when again the offense is at an advantage, and I'm just seeing like they struggling, man. And it don't look good from my perspective. But again, I could be wrong. Pass come out, we'll see what happens. He could pull a Mac Jones or something like that, and all of a sudden just catch fire, Gardner Minshew, whoever. Maybe he can get that practice. I don't know.
I love it. By the way, quick shouts to Max Mighty here in the comments. Says that he just subscribed.
How good is that?
Got to give you your thanks, man. All right, appreciate you. And of course, the Divers will welcome you in their own way, I'm sure, here in the comments. So, and this is the one that when I saw this in your notes, this is the one I paused and said, oh, snap, say it ain't so.
Yeah, man.
Jarrian Jones, somebody struggling in camp. Travis, talk to me.
Dude, I mean, y'all know how highly I think of Jarrian. If you talk to me, not on the podcast, not on the air, just on the side about Jarrian. Anybody who's a fan who's seen me at the stadium and everything, and just have conversations about the secondary, you know how highly I talk about him or how highly I think of Jarrian Jones. And with that being said, he's had an immensely busy offseason, and that's not always for the best reasons. Like, he's being challenged with guarding some really dang good wide receivers for the Jacksonville Jaguars offense. And I was going to
ask how much that was a factor. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, then a lot of man-to-man or even tight zone like situations. And while he's won his fair share of those challenges, I think he's lost more than his fair share also. And I want to be honest and say that, because for people who aren't there, I don't need them saying I'm a sunshine pumper and teal glasses wearing and all this other stuff. Like, we know that Jarrian Jones is an elite level slot cornerback already. But with J-Lou and Travis Hunter are both on the sidelines and ETAs, he's been asked a lot more. He's been playing more in both inside and outside, and he's playing against some seriously tough competition. So following that playoff game where Jarrian was frequently asked to go head-on-head against Khalil Shakir, and Khalil ended that game catching 12 of 12 targets, 82 yards, 3 first downs, and 60 yards after the catch. So they were all like quick, shifty kind of plays. Like, because of that being the last taste of his mouth in 2025, expectations have to be raised for Jarrian. He's entering year 3 where he's going to be challenged. They're asking him to do more because he's going to be eligible to be paid after this season. So I'm just like, nah, bro, this is the time, and you got to be better than what we're seeing, because you're going to play against some top NFL talent most weeks in the NFL. And Khalil Shakir ain't one of them. Brian Thomas Jr. is. Parker Washington is. And you're going to have a lot of wide receivers that are at that talent level. So I need to see better from him. And that's not me clowning the man. That's just me saying, hey, man,
these are the case. Yeah. And I don't think anybody here in this room or on this podcast even would debate that. Right. And another element we'll throw in too, and we give the quarterbacks this credit. I'll extend it to the cornerbacks. Maybe with Khalil Shakir, he was working on something, right?
It was a lot of press trying to get him at the line of scrimmage. Like, they knew they were throwing the ball within less than 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, and he just couldn't stay with them in those quick, option routes in and out. And that was a rough situation for him. And I'm not going to pretend that that's not the case, because again, it was mostly yak after the catch. It was 60 yards after the catch when he only had like 80 something yards, like 82 yards, I believe it was. That's basically saying that dude's running 2 yards and just running away from you every time. And that's the challenge. That was a challenge for him then. And it's different challenge with BTJ. So it's more vertical things, playing the ball in the air. These are different challenges that he's going to have to find a way to succeed in, because that's the NFL, man.
But hey, listen, here in June is when we want to see it, because then by the time August is done, then he would have time to work through it. And listen, I get it. Maybe Shakira is underrated, sure. But he's not an NFL starter, the likes of which Jarrian Jones will line up across from.
We all believe that Jarrian is an elite level slot cornerback. So telling me that Shakir is underrated while also telling me that Shakir got 12 out of 12 targets.
That's rough.
That's
it. The stats make that a problem. I agree with you. Try doing anything 12 times straight. That's tough. Okay. I might even brush my teeth correctly 12 straight times. You know what I'm saying? Like that anyways, but yeah, to your point. So, I appreciate that you're bringing that up as a concern, but also there's an opportunity for that to down the line be an evolution opportunity that this team needs to see from the Jaguars, right? I'm not trying to be positive. I'm acknowledging, but that's the pendulum, right? That's the test that you see in this administration, from this front office, in these things, right? We keep talking about competition and challenge, right?
We're gonna talk about this when we have our next podcast. I'm not even gonna talk about what the subject is, but that's the drive of this year 2 in this system. A lot of guys are good. We know they're good. Now, when you have folks looking at you as the guy, are you going to be great, or are you just going to be good? Because good worked in the 2025 season, but good also lost you a game in the wild card round. Can you be great? Because that might be what's necessary to move to this team to that next level. That's the challenge.
So yeah, that's a piece there too. I want to address a couple things in the comments that came up. First of all, Sunstain made an interesting point that I want you to address. He can't help but wonder if the rumor that Pregnon was a slow learner is actually because he asks questions and cares to learn the concept. Sunstain, this speaks to me. Here, let me show you my credentials. I was that damn guy. I asked questions after every play. Damn it, Nash, get it right. Lo and behold, my happy ass ended up starting 3 games as a top backup because I knew the playbook better than anybody except the center. And that's how I got my fat ass on the field. So, yeah, that's a thing, Stain. Obviously, you could tell I am passionate about this topic. But, I think that's a legitimate call out by you, Travis. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I mean, I'm good there for the most part. We just got to get into these lingering questions, and those aren't questions because of something you saw at camp necessarily.
Well, before we jump to that, there too, we also talked about the backup quarterbacks, and I know there's some element that's serious, but also the divers got jokes. The Brendan Sorsby question came up, so I'm going to say this is the guy that my time. Well, now covering UCF with Locked On UCF Night Zone. Sorsby's overrated. I said what I said. He wasn't that good at Cincinnati. He had a lot of help around him in Cincinnati. He had a defense to cover up his mistakes at Cincinnati, and he had, I mentioned the O-line, he had a pretty good set of receivers around him at Cincinnati, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that he would be all that any bit better at Texas Tech. Why? Because he had the best surrounding team that money could buy, right? I've seen enough land, man. I know how much oil people make. I'm joking, but still, Sorsby's not impressive. I'm a full pass on that. Now, a good point that Social Alky brings up is maybe PJ and Sorsby should meet at our local Best Bet.
Big money. Lord, them boys don't know. They don't know how to stop gambling. All right. But you're talking about him probably being your lowest you're talking about is maybe a 3rd or 4th round.
Well, it would be a comp pick potentially too. He has entered the supplemental draft allegedly here.
So yeah, you're in comp pick range if you're talking 3rd or 4th round, but you're realistically he can go as high as 2nd round. Like I can see that just because quarterbacks with risk. So we'll see kind of where that goes in the supplemental draft.
But to me, I'm not feeling it. Listen, I get it that
this team hasn't shown you that they care about the backup quarterback situation at this point. Even late picks. So you gonna think they're gonna use a 2nd rounder in the stacked 2027 draft? No. Yeah, I can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, can't see I'll put it this way, and I know the Jag fan base has a warm heart for giving dudes with a shot, but that guy came in and now they got Ridley of him. No, but I said what I said, Travis. Wow. But for me, I didn't think he was all that good a quarterback. But then again, I'm not
fine with them. I'd be like they say, anybody with eyebrows or anybody with a pulse. That's what Jarrian said. He'll guard anybody with anyone with eyebrows last year. I'm like, at this point, I'm just like, bring me a quarterback with the traits and anybody with a pulse you believe can actually learn the offense. Because at this current moment in time, I acknowledge I'm working from a position of non-boldness because I don't. But it's not because I'm not bold, is because I don't have belief of what I'm seeing on the field. It's based on the tape that I'm just not agreeing with what I'm seeing from Nick Mullins personally and the rest of the backup quarterbacks, that I then have the fear of what happens if you lose your quarterback for a small time frame or a long time frame from that perspective. I don't want the season to be over when you have options as far as upgrading that backup quarterback spot.
And then here comes Preston off the top of rope.
No.
There's always Flacco.
No. Let that man stay home with his grandkids.
Look here. Here's the reason why you signed Joe Flacco. That for once he doesn't kill the Jaguars.
That's the reason. Or just
anyways,
defense.
Lingering questions.
Speaking of freaking Joe Flacco, man, like the lingering questions, the pass rush. Like we're through the underwear Olympics part of the offseason. So now we can have real conversations about the Jaguars' biggest opportunity in 2025. And now we can ask the most important question that ain't been answered yet. Have the Jaguars adequately addressed their interior pass rush issues that we saw from last season? Are Albert Regis and Rukaroro with the back end additions enough to turn this Jacksonville Jaguars pass rush that ended the season 27th in sacks to maybe a top 10 or at least a top 15 sack unit? Like
I'd love to see a middle of the road. That'd be fine.
It's the same thing I said about the Jaguars run game going into last season. If they can just become average, it's going to be a significant benefit to the rest of the secondary. They're going to have more turnovers, which is crazy because they were second in the league in turnover, in overall turnovers.
Yeah.
It'll help the entire rest of the team, and you'd see the downstream impacts. And I'm not going to tell you that there aren't some traits to make you think that, all right, Albert Regis, he may have it. Because there are some people in this fan base who truly believe it also. But he's a powerful dude who's shown the ability to push the pocket and still stop the run on those plays that you're taking Devon Hamilton off the field. But
I'm looking at it again while you're talking because he does have good feet, man.
Yeah,
I'm not going to knock it.
But he still needed to put it together as a pass rusher as far as his college tape with that low center of gravity. So they obviously envision him with more opportunities as that penetrating DT, pressing the gap, versus being double teamed as often as he was in college. I can see the vision, but I need to see it on tape, if you know what I mean. I need to see it in the league.
Yeah, well, and here's another thing there too. Earlier it was said that the deep passing game is dangerous. Even the threat of a deep passing game can ease up an offense. Even the threat of an interior pass rush that people have to respect is enough because it's a ripple effect, like Robert Lambison mentions here, for the rest of the line to do business, right? I feel like that's an overall theme for both sides of the ball here with this front office, is attack that lingering thing that they felt like needed to be improved. So then kind of by osmosis, everything else improves because complementary football, right? It's not just a, what's it called? It's not just a clever nickname for what they're trying to do. The one King David mentions, like I said before, Regis just needs to cause enough confusion to give the ends that much more time to get sacks. Absolutely, right? Keep the other guys from being double teamed if you can, for sure.
Yes. So they love double teaming Josh Hines, Allen, and Travon Walker. And I believe we had the stats early this offseason that talked about just how dominant those two guys were when they weren't being double teamed. The problem was they were often being double teamed because they didn't have the interior presence to pull those guys inside just a little bit more. So if you have someone like Albert Regis who ends up being someone who just moves guys just a little bit, just enough where they can't double team guys, I think it's going to be very beneficial for this Jacksonville Jaguars edge duo because 100%. They need something.
For sure. And so, I mean, I don't think this next point for sure is a question straight up. Will they be more physical? There are some places where that answer is inevitably yes, simply because of the changes in the roster, right?
But it's certain position groups that give me pause. And if you listen to any of the interviews with any of the assistant coaches, you're going to probably catch a trend really quickly. The running back room, the Chad Morton conversation, the O-line play, the Sean Sarrett conversation, and then you want to add Brenton Strange and Borkature into that conversation. I think overall you get what I'm saying because they continue to mention it over and over and over again. Chad Morton basically said, hey, man, this isn't the time when my running backs are going to show out because the way that these guys are built, and I'm paraphrasing, the way that these guys are built, they're just more physical. They're going to break more tackles. We got more physical. And that's, again, my paraphrase of his statements, but basically something along the lines of, okay, cool. This is where you believe. Now I'm looking forward to seeing them prove it when the pass come out because those three position groups are going to be front line against the number one run defense in the NFL from last year in training camp. Like, think about that benefit of iron sharpening iron. Like, yeah. So that's going to be something that definitely, hopefully, quote unquote, will help the Jacksonville Jaguars run game to get.
Definitely, hopefully. That's great.
I say definitely, hopefully. Like, but I'm going to put this on the record now. Yeah. I probably would not be surprised if the Jaguars run game, when you're looking at the camp reports and everything else in training camp, if they struggle a little bit early on while they're trying to figure all these out in those three rooms between the running back position, the O-line switches and Borkature and Strange and all, how they're going to work all this out. But again, if iron sharpens iron, then you got to hope that they're going to figure it out by the time these games, these bullets get live.
Yeah, I would imagine the first 3 days have their kinks in it. There might be an offside here or there. There might be some missed blocks here or there. You got rookies getting thrown in. You're changing the percentage scheme you're running 12 in. That's more adjustment, right? Now, granted, it better not become, penalties later in the season or Kyle will lose his entire mind again, but those elements are factors. I agree. If you're expecting, 50-yard breakouts in day one, slow that roll.
I think the fantasy football community is obviously thinking about it, and I wish they understood how much the media folks laugh at these fantasy football and bio guys when they make things go like the whole conversation we had about people going crazy. Though, Bayshaw Tunes had such a great camp. I'm like, bro, they're not blocking. He's just fast, and we knew he was fast when he was drafted. So basically, all you said was fast dude go zoom, but they out blocking. So stop that kind of conversation. But
and if you're a fantasy guru, you should know better than to look at the Jags DB core, RB core, not because of a lack of talent, but just because of the versatility. The ball, who's getting the ball is a big question, right? There's only one ball, and there's so many dudes to feed. If you're worth a damn as a fantasy analyst, and you're not. If you're looking at the Jags run game, that ain't it for fantasy points, man.
Yeah, but speaking of the run game, anyways, like after the coaches roundtable, because that conversation with Sean Sarah, the Jaguars O-line coach, was really dang good. It made me want to go back and look at some stuff because he said some things that we're probably going to talk about on Friday. I'm not going to recap it. If you haven't seen the video, go to the Duval Dive YouTube and take a look at the video. But I went back and rewatched like every run snap from weeks 1 through 5 from last year because I wanted to try to get a glimpse of how the interior offensive line specifically was moving guys at that moment before all the injuries started to kick in. And that's when the team was having their most success.
And the defensive line difficulty also kicked up, right? That whole thing.
But that's when they were having their most success running the ball. So I'm like, all right, cool. If that's what you view as your quote unquote normal before injuries pop up or whatever else, like I want to specifically look at Patrick McCarry and Robert Hainsey. And so that's what I did. Like, and from my perspective, it was some good, some bad. Like I remember how I felt after the Carolina Panthers game. There were some plays where there wasn't a lot of movement, but if I'm looking at Robert Hainsey specifically at center, and I'm looking specifically at right guard at Patrick McCarry, there were a lot of plays where there wasn't a good amount of movement as far as up front. But then there were also those explosives that you remember, like the long Travis Etienne rush, like the few of the cutbacks that he ended up having in the game. That I'm like, all right, I see the vision, but also there was still it was hit and miss, basically. You know what I mean? Like, because I forget who it was, the Panthers defensive tackle, the 3-technique defensive tackle. He ended up having a good game.
Yeah, not a slouch in general, that cat. I mean,
yeah, but he ended up having a good game that week to the point where I was like, all right, maybe they'll be a little struggles running the ball. We'll see. And then they kind of picked it up from that week moving on. But overall, if you're telling me that your goal or your aiming point is this Jacksonville Jaguars team before the injury started, then I'm gonna automatically look at those first few weeks and just say, oh yeah, that was, thank you, Robert. Derek Brown. I'm like, I knew it was Brown last name. I just forgot who it was.
Yeah, he's a good player.
He had a good week that week. And I was just like, all right, cool. So if you think your aiming point is, I think we were good, but injuries are what took us out, I'm like, all right. If at interior O-line, this team's biggest concern or question in the run game is kind of like, that's where I hope to see the biggest challenges. We already know that. Emmanuel Pregnon, Eban. Right. They brought him in. You got Wyatt Milam. You're hoping to have a year or two bump from him. Maybe even Jonah Monheim. You're hoping for him to take the leap because Jonah had those 2 great games, but you just well, is he going to be good enough to take the role from a veteran Robert Hainsey, who we've seen very good things from, but that doesn't mean he's perfect. That doesn't mean he's unable to be moved off that spot. That's going to be the conversation. That's going to be the question of whether or not this run game is going to take that next step, or you're just saying you're just comfortable where it was.
And Preston asked an interesting question. I think the answer is obvious in my mind, but I'll ask you first, Travis. As of now, who can move a D-line the best road grader, and why is it Ezra Cleveland? Sorry.
That's funny because it's got to be Ezra Cleveland, but if you don't say Ezra Cleveland, folks ain't gonna like my other answer because it's probably Walker Little.
When he's at guard, at least, sure.
I don't care when he's anywhere.
Well, when he's honestly, run blocking.
Gotcha. Yeah, when he's run blocking, he's fine. It's just pass protection that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't, and that's the deal with the devil. And I'm not calling Walker Little the devil. I'm saying the normal use of the phrase.
That's the detail with him, right? Like the reason why he got paid what he did was he was that guy that made all the right plays against the Cowboys when Cam Robinson was out, and because of his ability to run block, where they were alleging Dougie P and Littlefinger alleging that they were going to get more physical. Which, by the way, this again, I can't stress enough that this office has done.
And Tom got way more physical with this staff than with the last one. It's so weird.
What a point. Yeah, God, I didn't think of that. Maybe Anton's the answer at this point. We'll find out by the end of camp. Who knows? For the number 2 guy, not over Ezra.
Yeah. No, I got you. And for the last question, I mean, we kind of already talked about Jack Kiser, but for me, it's the linebackers in coverage. Yeah. We focused on the physicality because that's a big thing, and then we're talking about the physicality. This is the one room I don't have questions on physicality. We believe most of these guys are thumpers. We know who Foye Oluokun is. We believe we know who Ventrell Miller is.
Knows who he is. Let's be clear.
Yeah, we believe we know who Ventrell Miller is as far as being a thumper, but in coverage and rushing the passer, I don't know. What is Jalen McLeod? What is Yasir Abdullah? What is Dennis Gardeck? You went from having a superstar in coverage in 2025, helping you win multiple games, and having a lot of questions in that same spot now. And that's kind of where I'm kind of figuring that out. Like, we know these guys are more physical, similar to that running back room. But in a passing league, the question of who's going to be that guy in coverage is still a huge question mark for me. Like, and I'm hoping we'll have those answers by the end of training camp.
And yeah, a couple things here. Robert mentions in the comments, I'm going to keep an eye during preseason. What I think you mean Jonah Monheim, what he does in protection calls. I think that's a great point.
Which was a great question. And as soon as he put it on YouTube, I'm like, dang it, why I didn't ask Coach that? Because it was such a good question. Like, has he had better consistency as far as his protection?
How much does he absorb the offense to be that guy?
Such a good question.
When Hainsey can miss 100%.
But there's a legitimate argument to be made right now that this team, and this is the weird way I landed on this after having all the conversations with all the coaches that kept hammering the physicality point, which I think is important. But there is a legitimate argument to be made right now that this team got less athletic both at running back and at linebacker, while getting more physical at both in a league where athleticism matters. And that's where I'm just like, I don't know how to feel about that.
I don't know that that's necessarily accurate too.
So you believe that whoever takes the role from Devin Lloyd, let's say it's Ventrell Miller or let's say it's Jack Kiser, you believe that they're more athletic than Devin Lloyd?
No, I never said more athletic. Hold on.
Right. Well, that's the conversation. More physical, but less athletic, but more physical. That's my argument.
See, and that's what's interesting. They're getting away from Devin Lloyd because they don't think he could do it a second time, right?
I agree.
Okay. And listen, as down as I was last offseason, I can't front and act like I'm confident Devin Lloyd will do it again. I'm less confident that he'll do it for the Panthers. That's just where I'm at. I think they understand what they have in the room, and that's why they got more physical. It could be that they played the style of defense they did because Devin Lloyd was what they had, right? Now that it's different, okay, we don't have a dude that can jump all over the place. Let's play to Foye's strengths, which is, for a dude his
straight downhill attack.
Right. And so they're leaning more into that because that's what they have in the locker room. So maybe there's something to that change being a thing. I'm not sure that it's something that necessarily diminishes them, right?
No, it's a hell of a point. You're good. You're good. Like, that's a heck of a point. And you can make the exact same argument with the running back room, because that was the other room that I had the same thought process on.
Hey, I appreciate the props. You know what I'm actually doing? I'm building on your point late last year that this team's good at self-scouting, my guy. That's all I'm doing.
So they said instead of being a team that's going side to side of running a lot more tosses and outside runs, we're going to run. We're hoping to be able to run more at you, being more physical. All right, I get down with that. And if you're saying the exact same argument for the linebacker room to say straight, we're running at you and attacking more, blitzing more of that Minnesota Vikings, Brian Flores type of look, just ears peeled back. I'm just going to blitz the hell out of you. All right, cool. I understand that too. So, but seeing the Jaguars 2025 schedule, 2026, this year's schedule, they know they have to be more physical, and they know they got to run the ball and continue stopping the run to be successful. Those are my primary questions. Like,
in short, they know what the Texans are, and they recalibrated, maybe specifically even to beat them.
Yeah, so they did well in answering my current questions about the passing game and about the secondary questions. That's what the OTAs are for. And now we got training camp coming soon with pads and hitting and everything else. And we're going to have to get those other questions answered. Stay tuned, folks.
And Preston nails it here. This is the point that I think gets overlooked, not just for the Jaguars, but in damn football in general, right? Deham, Regis, Armstead, whoever can keep the second level off the linebackers, those two will fly Foye and Ventrell 100%. Ray Lewis is nothing without Sam Adams and
Haloti
Ngata. Thank you, sir. Yeah, 100%. He's nothing without those dudes. And you know the first guy that'll tell you that? Ray effing Lewis. There you go.
I think hopefully it works out.
So with that in mind, Travis, we're approaching an hour. ICU divers are still going, but listen, we got families. We got to wrap this beast up. Tell the people where you could be found over and above being found on the Duval Dive YouTube channel, talking to Jacksonville Jaguar coaches.
You already know. You can find me on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes. If you're listening to us on the audio side, please rate and review us. Help us out there. If you're listening to this thing on the YouTube side, I see how many of y'all looking. Click that like button, man. Help us out there. Apparently, we get paid from likes. I don't know how this algorithm works, and y'all know I don't, but that's okay. They say click the like button. Please click the like button, and we appreciate that very much. Take a look over at bigcatcountry.com. All of my written material for both me, Gus, Dylan, SI, all the team over at Big Cat Country. Support local journalism. If you can't read, that's okay. Click the link anyways. I appreciate that anyways. I hope you do read it, to be very clear. But if you don't read, have your local librarian read you the article. I don't think that's how that works, but on the off chance it does work out for you, maybe you'll get a date. I don't know, man.
The librarian has to click it. That's a win, Travis.
That's it. That's at the end of the day. I'm just here for supporting local journalism, and that's whether it's me and that's all the other local journalists who are on the ground, getting you coverage of this team that you so direly love. So yeah, click that like button over on the YouTube stream. Rate and review us over on the audio side. Shout out Believe Podcast Network, and
please let folks know. Share at the like button. Take that.
That's it. Let them know, bro. Let them know where you can be found.
Give them a second share for the notifications so you know when we go live, by the way. And real quick, man, listen, I appreciate you guys bringing up the beef talk in here, talking about Goose with Tony Saragusa, technically labeled as a defensive end, though, right? But still a big body that they would kick inside. I'm not leaving Goose out. May he be rest in peace for sure. No, he was a factor, 100%.
PT, I don't know what the hype button does either, but you should hit that too. I see it all the time either. I don't know what it does either, but you know what? Hit it. Appreciate you.
There you go. I can't put it better than that. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find my work covering the Orlando Storm on the Storm Surge podcast. BP and I did a year in review. While they did not win the United Bowl, what they did do was make a hell of a first impression for an inaugural team. Maybe not to the same extent as the championship Louisville Kings, good God. But nonetheless, we've talked about Coach Becht, Jack Plummer, and things they've done well and things that they need to fix next year as they go into that space. A lot of dudes wearing Storm uniforms, getting looks and signings in the NFL. We'll talk about that on Friday as well. We got Brahma Babe coming on too as well to talk about the fan experience for the past season. So make sure you check out Storm Surge podcast, as well as my work covering UCF with Locked On UCF and UCF Night Zone as well. And on Thursday, I will be in the building for new head coach Sean Sweeney of the Orlando Magic, getting introduced to the city beautiful here. So make sure you check out all of the above. And shout out, of course, I mentioned the UFL. Shout out to James Robinson, the running back for the Louisville Kings, former Jaguar, now a UFL champion, a United Bowl winner. So there's that. But yeah, so there you go. So for all you divers out there, thanks a ton for jumping in and getting deep into the topics with us. Of course, for my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, this is Kyle Nash, the student of the game. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed.